Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. Today I have a very special guest. She is the second attorney to be a part of our show. So this is going to be fun to talk to the one and only Ann Vaughn. So let me give you a little background before you jump on. So let me do it properly. So we have attorney Ann Vaughn here. She's not just a lawyer, she's a mentor, a community champion, and a force in the courtroom. And Ann's supports family as well as other individuals that she care about. What's going on, Ann? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. So come on up to the mic.
Okay.
All right.
Is this good?
Yeah, that's good. So how you feeling today?
I'm a little nervous,
A little
but I'm
nervous?
doing well. Thank you.
You'll be all right.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. You got it. You got it
Okay.
covered. You got everything in order. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, or a lot about, family court, but a little bit about you. So we do got to get into something about you as the individual. Okay.
Okay.
You with me?
Yes.
All
Sure.
right. All right. So let's start off with you jumping into being a lawyer. So many moons ago, let me be selfish right quick. I used to want to be a lawyer, and I didn't do it. So I'm here now being a therapist. But so what was the thing that pushed you towards the law? Like what said, to you, spoke to you, say, and I want to be a lawyer.
So the pursuit of law was nothing that I had ever dreamed that I would be doing.
Hmm.
If someone had told me when I was in college or much, 25 years ago that this is what I would be doing, I'd be quite surprised. Um, so this is actually my third career, and about maybe 27 years ago,
Hmm.
um, I was at a party,
Right.
and I met a young woman, and I
Hmm.
asked her what was her story was, what she was doing, and she said she was a second year law student, and
Hmm.
I was simply astounded because she was quite young,
Hmm. Hmm.
and with all due respect, she was kind of dumb. So I was just astounded that she could be in law school, because I had this stereotype
Yeah.
um, the that the world of law was populated with white men.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, if she can do it, then I certainly can. And at that time, I had been doing a lot of advocacy work
Hmm.
in Lorain County. That's where I
Okay.
was living at the time.
Hmm.
And so I had, because of the advocacy work in the nonprofit community, I had gathered an understanding that a lot of people didn't know their rights. And as
Right.
a result, they weren't being taken advantage of.
Mm.
What good are your rights if you don't
If
even
you
know
don't
what
know
they
'em.
are or don't
Right.
know how to access them? So I went into law for very high-minded reasons. But
So it wasn't for the money.
no, not at all. I was thought, well, if she can do it, I can do it.
No,
And there we
I
go.
feel you, but no, doctors, lawyer, those are generally in America where they try to push everybody off to, and so you fit right, in. But what I hear more than anything else is your desire for advocacy, because you've worn a lot of hats, right? So you said this is your third career. So your
Correct.
first one, you said who?
I said correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So you've been an educator.
I
You've
have.
worked. Did you work in some nonprofit spaces as well?
I did. So my undergraduate degree is in education,
Okay.
but I started out as a development director for the YWCA
Mm-hmm.
in Lorain County,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in that field that I got involved in, like Head Start,
Yeah.
Boys and Girls Club,
Right.
Habitat for Humanity,
Oh, okay.
grassroots leadership development. Those
Yeah.
are all Lorain County organizations, Catholic charities,
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to that party, figured out that I could go to law school.
Wait, tell me, what was the party again?
It was just a party. It
Oh,
was
okay.
just a regular party, and there were just a bunch of regular people, and
But one of them was a lawyer, and she wasn't too bright.
she was not too bright.
Is
And
what
I
I
was,
gathered
yeah,
from that.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
All right. Go ahead.
so then I went to law school, and then I was very disillusioned
Mm-hmm.
with the study of law. It
Yeah.
wasn't what I thought it would be. So I went back to my undergraduate degree, and I taught for a few years,
Yeah.
Cleveland Municipal School District.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a few years, and it was literally driving me to drink.
I feel you.
It was so
But you,
stressful.
but you went into a field that has just as high of a drinking level.
Well,
lawyers are
at
right up
that
there with
time, I
drinking.
didn't know that. So then
All
I
right, I'm
thought,
sorry.
well,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
this is so hard teaching. I was getting burned out. So I thought, I'll just go and be a lawyer and
Yeah.
see how that is. And I haven't looked back.
So you've been in law for 20 years,
20, 25 total,
25.
including 3 years of law school.
Okay.
I think somewhere around there.
Somewhere.
I was licensed in 2002.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so let's take it from there. So you got your license in 2002. That's 23 years.
Okay, 23.
Give
You're
or
much
take.
better at math.
Hey, it's all good. When you decided to, make that move, other than it sounded as if you decided to do that based off of, oh, I can do that too.
Yes.
You didn't. So initially, the idea of being a lawyer didn't pop within you first. It was, oh, I can do that too.
Absolutely.
Is that usually how you work with things? Like, oh, you see something and like, oh, I can do that too.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was very empowering realizing that the practice of law isn't relegated to a
Mhm.
certain population.
Yeah.
And then when I went to law school, I realized that, well, I went to Cleveland Marshall, it was called at
Yeah.
the time. Now it's Cleveland State.
Yeah. Cleveland State Law.
So it was very nice to see that it was a very diverse population of students.
Mhm.
I didn't quite fit in because I was a little bit older than
Yeah.
everyone else, but I wasn't the only person of color, and there was at least half of the students were female, so that was nice.
Do you find that individuals that do that second life jump are more prepared? Because although you are older, you had more experience. Did you find that it was compared to your other, I guess, cohorts? Did you find that it was a bit easier for you because you had some experience?
Perhaps I had certainly more life
Right.
experience,
Mhm.
but so yes, in that sense, I knew what I really wanted to do.
Mhm.
I was 30 at the time, and I was in school with 23-year-olds.
It's
So
okay.
I was
I
the
went
odd
back. I was
person
in school.
out.
I was in school at 32.
Yeah, but
Also.
so it did make me more prepared because I knew
Mhm.
definitely that I wanted to study law. It's just that when I actually started studying law,
Yeah.
I realized it wasn't like what I saw on
It's not
television.
Matlock
No.
or
Or
The Practice or any of
well,
those.
at the time it was Ally McBeal.
Ally
Do you
McBeal,
remember
which
that?
was a wild, crazy show
Yeah,
anyway.
or
Yeah.
LA Law or those types of
Yeah.
shows. Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah.
So did you gravitate towards working with families, right off the rip, or did it take some time for you to say, this is what I want to do?
So I thought I would be more inclined to do something like international law,
Hmm.
something like that, but that wasn't realistic. And
Why?
then when I graduated from law school, I went
Mhm.
back to teaching. That was too much. And then when I decided to practice law, I partnered with another attorney, and
Yeah.
it was a general practice. So I
Hmm.
had a little bit of,
You got your feet wet and everything.
I did. And I, I really like family law.
Hmm.
I also like employment law.
Mm.
I like that type of stuff as well. One of my first cases was
Hmm.
against a big car dealership out in
You
Lorraine County.
don't say the name.
Yeah. But we prevailed. Jury trial, got a huge
Right.
verdict,
Oh,
and it was employment discrimination. So I
okay.
love those types of cases.
So you're a fighter.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
have to admit, the very first time. So the very first couple conversations, we were talking about getting more counselors in the court system, and I guess the court system wasn't actually helping their people get let's see, placement in mental health facilities. The very first thing. This is how I knew you were a fighter. We have only known each other maybe a week, and you started and was like, well, we need to get some more in there, or you need to. I was like, okay. I was like, I would love to have you in the courtroom. Have you always been a fighter?
I think so.
Yeah.
I guess if I look at myself, I could say yes, but
Hmm.
me being inside of myself, I don't see myself
No.
that way. No,
Okay.
I just consider myself an advocate,
Hmm.
and I push for things that I really believe in. Um, so I'm lucky that I do think that, you know how they say dogs reflect their owners?
Hmm.
I think my clients and I are well matched.
I understand. Okay.
So I wind up with cases that I feel very strongly for my clients' needs and when I feel that way, I think I do a better job for them.
So the thing that you go for, what I hear, whether it's teaching in nonprofit or in your practice, is literally standing up for people that either don't know their rights or are not being treated well. Where did that come from?
I I have no idea. I
Come
think
on now.
maybe from working in the nonprofit community,
Okay.
working for the YWCA,
Mm-hmm.
and this was back in the
Mm-hmm.
90s, working with a lot of women, underprivileged women. Um, I think that sort of formed that kind of advocacy, and then
Yeah.
working in with Head Start, Lorain County
Mm.
Community Action
Okay.
Agency, that that also helped form some of that.
Got you.
And it's very empowering.
Yeah.
It feels really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you what's your over your years? You mentioned the car dealership, but what was the thing that said, what was the case that said, I really can do this? What was that? Do you remember that case to where you can put your finger on and say, you know what, I really can do this?
I think that was the case.
The big one?
It was literally the first case that I brought into my partnership.
Okay.
Was just someone that I had. Oh, I was looking for a car, and that's what it was.
I
And
love how serendipity helps you get where you want to be.
Yeah,
It's no need to be intentional. Just go with the serendipity and
it was.
everything will work
It
out.
was a serendipitous moment,
Hmm.
and I met the car salesman, and I gave him my contact information,
Hmm.
and he had indicated he was experiencing discrimination, and I
Hmm.
looked at it, and it was egregious
Yeah.
racial discrimination.
So you
And
jumped on it.
yes, and it was great. It was a really empowering case, and then I realized the power of the pen, or was it the power of
The power of the pen.
power of the pen
I got you.
is mighty, something of that nature.
The pen is mightier
Bigger
than the sword.
Yes,
There you
yes,
go.
absolutely. So that was one of the first cases, and then once I started doing more family law
Mhm.
cases, custody, divorce,
Mm.
that requires a bit of you have to have a bit of a social worker in you
Yeah.
to do that well. Otherwise, you get burned out.
Yeah.
But what I didn't gravitate towards was, and I gave my hand at it, criminal law.
Hmm.
I don't particularly care for that,
Yeah.
though I still practice in that area.
Oh, so you also you still do general, not just the family.
Correct.
All right.
So I do immigration, I do
Hmm.
bankruptcy, I still do I take criminal law cases, usually as a referral from prior
Yeah.
clients or things of that nature. I do civil litigation.
Hmm.
I'm always still looking for a really good, what I call a contingency
Yeah.
case, discrimination,
Hmm.
something of that nature.
Okay. So before we take our first break,
Sure.
I do want to ask. So all these hats you wear and everything that I know that you do, because you do an excellent job of funneling and bringing clients to us, literally walking them through the door, to us. What is your self-care plan? What do you do that helps you, do all these things and do them well?
So I think it's meditation.
Hmm.
I started an active practice around 2020,
Hmm.
and that really was a game changer for
Yeah.
me. So I do a daily meditative practice every
Okay.
morning,
Okay.
and about about half the time in the evenings. So that really keeps me centered.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time in self reflection.
Mm.
That's very helpful.
Okay.
I think that helps me really love what I do and not get burned out or develop a substance abuse
I
problem.
was just about to say that and become callous. Either the substance, substance or individuals become callous. So what I heard was you meditate
I do.
twice a day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yesterday I meditated specifically about today.
About to. Oh,
Yes, I
good.
did.
So
Yeah.
okay. So that means everything is going to work out well, which I believe it is already.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Yes.
So we're going to take a quick break. Then when we come back, what I do want you to do is start off with your immigration side, and then we'll move it over to family and see how those tie in. So is that about you okay with that?
Sure.
All right, so we're gonna take a quick break. This is Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. Yes, yes, yes. We're back. Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. In the studio, we have the one and only attorney Ann Vaughn. Before we jumped over to the break, you mentioned immigration.
I did.
When you working with in the immigration area, is it just with families or is it also with just someone being deported or something to that effect?
So immigration is a smaller area of
Hmm.
my general practice. I have had experience doing things involving a detention
Right.
and removal
Right.
proceedings.
Hmm.
Those are tough. Those are people who are undocumented or don't have legal status to be in the United States.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's fairly simple things, things
Hmm.
like family petition, spousal petition,
Hmm.
things of that nature. Someone who has a green card who's trying to get, um, become a U.S. citizen,
Yeah.
adjust their status, things of that nature.
Okay. And so, as you know, if you live in America, we have this huge debate back and forth about immigrants and illegal and this and that. When you look at, some of the reunification aspects that are affiliated with not only just regular families, as well as with, what we see in the media, how many of those cases have you actually had the opportunity to work with, whether it's governmental mandate or just someone in the local area that needs immigration help to keep their family together in America, or even when they get deported?
So, my most recent case was someone who had a work visa. So, he
Hmm.
had authorization to be here. Unfortunately, um, he he caught a felony.
Yeah.
So then he was facing deportation proceedings.
Okay.
And that was tough because
Hmm.
he has a wife and he has children.
Right.
And the law is very strict about these types of things. And I
Hmm.
think immigration judges have their hands tied
Yeah.
about how much latitude they have. There may be extenuating circumstances, and the person may overall,
Hmm.
be law abiding or have, be a productive citizen.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, right now, the laws don't support people who make a mistake
Hmm.
from being able to stay in the U.S.
So a lot of times the immigration debate has to do with borders, but a fair amount of those individuals that are here illegally are also people that came not from the borders; they also flew into America. So when you're working with someone with a visa from the immigration side, how does that work as it relates to the family? So you come over here and work, you've created a life, and then I guess your visa is up, right? You may have
Right.
gotten married, you gotten kids. How does that work in advocating for those individuals to either get a new visa or to where you're looking and saying, okay, they're married, but they hasn't gone through the proceedings to get the permanent marriage card?
So when people come here on a visa and then they overstay their
There you go. That's
visa,
the term. See, you're the
it's
smart one.
it's very hard to right that
Okay.
situation. And it depends on the circumstances, but quite often, in order for them to obtain legal status, they have to return back to their country
Mm.
and reapply. And that makes it tough.
So they have to go back to their country and they have to come back over. What about some of the, and once again, we're not, individuals that enter into the United States are not just those that come through the borders. They're also those that fly in, overstay their visa, and um, I guess has to be, taken care of in the same way that anybody else is taken care of. When you're working with somebody and doing that, how much time does that take? And what if it's a, quote unquote war torn area? So we're looking at Gaza, we're looking, right? What do you do for those people in keeping the family together?
So there is the option of seeking asylum,
Hmm.
and there's a huge backload of asylum cases. Part of the problem is that um, United the immigration
Hmm.
system, it's there's there's not enough. The court system is so backlogged
Hmm.
that they're terribly behind schedule. I guess that's
Gotcha.
the best way to say it.
Okay.
So it's unpredictable how long an application for asylum, you know, may last, how long it will take before it's finally heard, or
Okay.
those are proceedings that are before the immigration court versus
Hmm.
filing an application to adjust your status.
Mm. Okay.
Um, so it
Is
depends on,
Yeah. No,
but
keep going.
overall, it's very difficult. There aren't enough immigration
Yeah.
judges. And it's expensive. It's very expensive for people to come up with the money to, seek a good attorney.
Yeah. That's the key part. Good. because you can seek because they do have or provide lawyers and whatnot from a mass level. But to look at it from an individual standpoint, you're definitely looking at a fair amount of money. So my last question, or my second to last question before we switch over to families, if you had to, when you say it costs money, right? So someone comes over, overstay their visa, um, and they need a good lawyer. And first, how long do you think it takes to get all this taken care of? And based on that, what do you think the cost would be for someone who just simply wants to remain where they were, here, right? They don't have any hits against them, right? They've been working, they may even open up a business, they have a family, their family's American. How long does that take, and how much money is that?
So it depends on the type of proceeding,
Right.
what type of work they need done, but it can be anywhere from 3 to 5 to
Get
$10,000.
out of here.
Yes, yes.
And so now, what was the say the time again? It can be.
Anywhere from anywhere from three to, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. It can
Yeah.
take a while.
Wow.
I have one case where I'm not representing the
Hmm.
person, but I was providing some advice where a young man had come to the U.S., was trying to make his way to Ohio,
Hmm.
and he got detained in Texas, and
Hmm.
now he's coughed up 10,000, and still there's no relief in sight.
Wow.
He has to find a sponsor, a
Hmm.
relative who will sponsor
Hmm.
and vouch for him that he'll come to court proceedings. And while his case is pending,
Hmm.
he can remain in the U.S. In the meantime, he has to try and get a work permit
Right.
so that he can work lawfully in the U.S.
Hmm.
And it's just an uncertain future. I can
Yeah.
certainly understand why people want to, from other countries that are unstable,
Hmm.
want to come to the U.S. I mean, the United States is the best country in the world, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Because we got a lot of options.
We
Let's be
do.
let's be real. Everything that goes on in these borders, we have way more options of success and growth than any other place. Now there are some that have a higher level, right? So, but we if you come here, you're gonna make something if you got some type of tenacity and understand.
And I find that who immig, immigrants who come to this country
Hmm.
because they want to achieve the American dream, they're very hardworking.
Hmm.
For by and large, they're law abiding. They keep their head down. They just want to work. Quite often, supporting families back home.
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel sympathy for them. I'm an immigrant,
Hmm.
so um, and I'm a naturalized citizen. My
Right.
parents were able to achieve the American dream, so I have sympathy and empathy for people who desire the same thing. I
Mm.
just hope that in the future our laws will allow that. I
Okay.
think there's enough room. I just don't know if there's the openness
Yeah.
within our culture right now.
And that's the struggle. So my last question on immigration, then we're going to bounce over to family. I'm going to weave it together, more or less. When you're looking at all of the debate that's happening with, immigration, moving here, and this and that, do you think that they're missing the overarching point of, one, you may not be looking at, the real issue, and secondly, what about the individuals that they're leaving behind, the family? Do you think that that we are as a country missing the mark on the real struggle in this immigration struggle?
I do. I really do. I
Hmm.
think that when people are talking about mass deportation, for
Hmm.
example, with the next administration, they don't realize that the people they want to mass deport are the people who are doing jobs that no one else wants to do. We're talking
Amen.
landscaping,
Say that
house
again. Don't
cleaning.
nobody want to do that.
No, no,
So what's the
for
issue?
very low
Yeah.
wages,
Hmm.
for very, very low wages. There is a way to make it work, but people are blindsided or
Hmm.
blinded by their discomfort of the other.
Hmm.
And I don't think the other person who doesn't look like them, who may
Right.
have a different, more melanin,
Right.
whatever, that they're not really taking resources away from you. They're doing things that no one else wants to do. And
Right.
when they're all gone, there will be a huge labor shortage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think so people aren't looking at the broader perspective about
Hmm.
this issue. But I guess people have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. What
So
about
there's
the
that.
family issue? So
So the family issue is very, very heartbreaking. Like
yeah.
there was President Biden had um, enacted something. It's currently being blocked, at the federal level
Hmm.
for if you're if you're a citizen of the United States and you have an
Hmm.
undocumented spouse and you have children, for example, there was a pathway to citizenship for that undocumented spouse. And that I think that's a great idea. I think
Hmm.
that's great legislation, and I think that should be part of something that America incorporates.
Yeah.
However, there's great opposition. It's not going to happen, and
Hmm.
so now that breaks up families because that
Yeah.
undocumented spouse may have to leave the country. That breaks up families.
Yeah.
That's absolutely devastating.
I also think the interesting part. So let's tie our professions together. So you have someone who, came in or overstayed a visa, or came in illegally. They have a family. That child, one, is going to have to, or the individuals that are affected are going to have to figure out the best way to find a competent lawyer, which costs money. Secondly, they're also going to have to figure out a way to help their mental health, which, if you go to any agency and do that, they're so stressed and they can't necessarily afford actually private practice or some of these, other. When you are working with someone and you are attempting to reunify the family and bring everything together, how many systems do you often have to, I guess, hurdle in order just to simply get your family's help?
Well, you have to have access to an attorney,
Hmm.
and so that's the initial burden.
Right.
So a lot of times people in that situation, they'll have to rely on family
Right.
help,
Right.
extended family, but if they don't have that, then they're at the mercy of the system. They'll eventually be deported.
Because there's two systems, right? It's the adult system and the child system if they have kids, right?
Correct.
Right. And so you're working on first the judicial system,
Correct.
right? What's the next one? Family services.
Correct.
And then if they need some services outside of that, what else are we looking at? Churches, nonprofit organizations?
There are in in the greater northeastern Ohio area, there are advocacy groups
Hmm.
that specifically help
Hmm.
immigrant families find resources, um, get children into schools, like
Right.
schools that primarily teach English as a second language.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I know of, in a general sense, that there are those resources available.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, those resources are very strained.
Mm.
So there's not
Yeah.
enough help.
Because there are two places you can work, right? You can work in an actual system, right? You can work as a part of the court system, and you can work outside the court system. Why didn't you work in the court system and do the same thing that you're doing now?
I guess I don't understand the
Yeah.
question.
So you're in private practice.
I am,
There
yes.
you go.
Yeah.
And so why did you choose not to work for any governmental entity or organizational
Oh,
entity?
yeah, that's easy. I've I've never, as an attorney, I've
Yeah.
always been in private practice. I just knew early on I just couldn't work for the man.
Yeah.
I just I have to work for myself. I need that flexibility. I had a
Uh-huh.
family at the time.
Yeah.
I I don't mind doing, hustling and
Yeah.
doing all the extra stuff, finding
Hmm.
clients, rainmaking they call
Yeah.
it, billing,
All
whatever.
that other fun stuff.
Yes. Whereas when you work for someone, all that is done for you.
Yeah.
But I like the luxury of being my own
Freedom.
boss. Yes,
But you've been a lawyer for a while, so you've seen the ups and downs.
I have.
And you focus primarily on families, correct?
I'd say about 70% of my
Right.
practice is family law.
So the majority of so you've seen the ups and downs, and you've also seen how families are working within administrations. So you've had the opportunity to see that. How do you, based on what you're seeing right now, do you believe that there needs to be more individuals like you, and why do you think that there are not so many out there like you?
So I think there are plenty of attorneys out there.
Right.
It's not hard to find an
It
attorney.
isn't. Not in Northeast Ohio.
I think that there's a paradigm shift going on
Okay.
of what a family means these days.
Mm.
I think that back in the 90s
Hmm.
there weren't as many single family households.
Yeah.
I see a tremendous
Yeah.
shift from, father, mother, family
Hmm.
as an intact unit. I
Hmm.
don't I think there's a trend towards something different, and I don't think that that there are enough resources to address what that means.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
and I also see a big trend towards grandparents raising children, and there
Yeah.
aren't enough resources for that type of a situation.
I Okay, go ahead, because I have a
And,
question. I have a follow up on that
and I
one.
also think that there's a rise in what I called children's service cases,
Yeah.
abuse, neglect, and dependency cases,
Hmm.
which involves removal of children from a family because of something that happened, something very bad.
Yeah.
So there's a rise in those types of cases. That's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially post pandemic or during the pandemic, I guess my struggle would be is when we're looking at the building blocks of society, right? They say families are building blocks of society, but not too many people there, are advocating in the way that you're working to solidify that foundation. When you're going out and attempting to bring more people into what you do, what do you find that is most difficult in getting, brand new lawyers to do exactly what you're doing?
I think attorneys find their niche.
Okay.
I think I thought I would be more interested in
Hmm.
international law, and then I gave it a try and realized it's not my cup of tea.
Right.
I was rather surprised that I gravitated so much towards family law, um, primarily because as a Christian,
Hmm.
I support the Institute of Marriage. And
Hmm.
I did get a lot of pushback from my family about why I'm a divorce attorney
Yeah.
when my faith
Hmm.
really supports the Institute of Marriage.
Hmm.
So, there is that dynamic. But
Right. Right.
in the end, not everyone needs to be married.
Yeah.
Some marriages aren't meant to be. And
Hmm.
so they need advocates to help them find a way out,
Hmm.
especially when there are children.
Yeah.
And I do encourage in those types of situations, is there any hope to reconcile?
Mm.
That's a
Yeah.
conversation that I try to have with my
Hmm.
divorce clients, for example.
Right.
And I do encourage that, looking into marital counseling, things of that
Hmm.
nature, because when you enter into vows, that's a serious commitment. It's
Right.
not something that's so light. But
Right.
I do find that people nowadays, the culture is that it's much easier to divorce than
Right.
to try and work on the marriage.
It's also what is being put out there, right? Get another, go if you're not happy here, if you're not getting what you want, go ahead and find another, whether it is while you're still married or get a divorce and possibly find someone else. When you're so when you look at families and the definition, when you define how do you define family? Because you're right, it has changed, you know, from before. So when you look at family and saying that you're a family advocate, what does that mean for you?
So I think the definition of family is a very can be broadly defined.
Hmm.
There are so many non-traditional
Right.
families. Um, it really depends. I mean, there's generally some sort of parental figure. There may
Hmm.
be one, there may be two, they may
Hmm.
be same gender,
Hmm. Right.
So it may be a relative,
Hmm.
kinship care.
Hmm.
So it really just
Like
depends.
grandparents,
Yes.
aunts, even someone that is not related. When when you have a client who has family issues, and let's say the grandmother or the aunt or somebody is taking care of them, and they don't have the paperwork in order to advocate for that person because it was more of a soft right. So why don't you go live with your grandmother, and they're still under the age of 18. Do you ever run into those cases to where you got to go all the way back before you can help them to get documents signed so that you can be an advocate for them?
So that's so when someone is in that situation, it will
Mhm.
eventually catch up. There will
Yeah.
come a time when they will need to show that they have standing as
Right.
this person's guardian or custodian.
Hmm.
It's not that hard to get things back on track.
Okay.
And that's what juvenile court is for.
Yeah.
That's all about unmarried parents
Hmm.
or people who are caring for children that are not their blood
Right.
relatives,
Right.
or maybe they're relatives, but they're not the parents.
Yeah.
So I think we have one of the best juvenile courts in the state.
Hmm.
I just think Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court has the largest docket, I think, in the
Okay.
entire state. But I think it tries to do the best that it can.
Yeah, it's a pretty big county.
It is, yes.
When you go backwards, and you find that, because there are times where any type of, how can I say this? You find that maybe that child that family has been taken care of is not their own. So let me just make it plain. We've seen an increase of men finding out through genetic testing that their child isn't theirs. When that occurs for you and they come to look for assistance from you, what are some of the things you do to support them in the court in order to, or what are the rights? I don't know. How does that work in Ohio?
So when a man decides to have a child with a woman and they're not married,
Mm-hmm.
and he's certain that this child is his,
Mm-hmm.
he should sign the birth certificate.
Okay.
And if
Okay.
he doesn't, then there are other avenues to pursue. There's
Mm-hmm.
an acknowledgement of paternity that will establish down the road, if things should go awry in the relationship, that he is the father. If
Okay.
that doesn't happen and the relationship ends, father and mother are no longer together, it's not unusual that the woman, I'll just say woman, seeks child support, and
Right.
which she should, because if you can create a child, then the bottom line is you have a financial commitment to that child.
Right.
So then child support is established.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's another way to establish paternity.
Okay.
Is
through child support.
Because if the child wasn't yours, why would you agree to pay child support?
Right. Right.
So that's another opportunity to either disestablish paternity or to accept paternity through child support establishment.
So this establishes when you get the blood test and find out that it's not.
Correct.
What if they still sign the what is it called, birth certificate?
There are motions to file where you can disestablish paternity.
Okay.
And you can ask, you have to have the mother, you have to have good addresses, for example. And then with the court's involvement, the mother can be ordered to come to court to make the child available to do DNA genetic testing that the court will accept.
Okay.
The kinds that some people do on their own, that gives them personal satisfaction, but that may not necessarily be what the court will accept. So
because we work in a system. So let's bounce out of that. When you're going to court and you're attempting to prepare, for courts, if someone was to watch you in court, what end would they get in court?
Well, for one thing, I try to be on time.
Okay.
And I'm very punctual. I like to. So I think that's important, being on time.
Yeah.
I think looking the part is important.
Is that pretty big, looking the part? You can't come in with a hoodie and a bonnet.
People pay me good money, so I want to look like a lawyer. So I think and then being prepared.
Okay.
Talking to my client ahead of time so they know what to expect.
Okay.
And then educating them afterward about what just occurred.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, or before COVID hit, almost all court appearances were in person, but COVID for me was a blessing professionally, only because
you didn't have to go to the court system.
Yes. Yeah. Then we had Zoom hearings. And now at least 50% of my hearings, if not more, simple things like pre-trials, attorney conferences, things of that nature are by Zoom.
Yeah.
So that allows me more time to take on more cases, for example. But so I don't know. That's for me, being an educator. One of the things that distinguishes me is that I spend a lot of time educating my clients about what went on, what they can expect, what this means, sharing documents, explaining documents. Sometimes I'm astounded when I get a client who's had another attorney and they don't have one piece of paper from their entire case that may have been pending for an entire year. That's just astounding to me. Or they're just completely clueless about what went on for a year because my predecessor, the previous attorney, didn't explain to them what was going on. So that, I think, is a real shame.
Yeah, that sucks. Like, for real, because you go to someone and you pay them for something. the idea is that they're going to advocate for you in the fullest way. That means provide you with everything that you need, blah, 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 blah. But when that doesn't happen, then they're looking, they're, for one, the client is looking as if they're unprepared. And two, the lawyer is at, that they may go to, like you were, is at a handicap because they got to, I assume you got to recreate everything
Yes,
in a
yeah,
sense.
it takes a little bit more time if
Yeah.
the client has no paper from a previous case that's been going on for quite a while.
That,
That does create more work, but it's not impossible to
that
overcome.
sucks. I
Yeah,
can say suck. You can say
yeah.
suck too. So you're part of Northeast Ohio community, and you're someone who definitely supports and advocate, for how do you see your role and what you do in healing, our community or the community in Northeast Ohio?
So I just wish there were more public service announcements about what people can do to
Hmm.
protect their rights,
Yeah.
like from the beginning, especially unmarried parents.
Hmm.
I wish that men were more thoughtful, for
Hmm.
example, when they decide to have a child by a
Hmm.
woman. If you
Hmm.
can't make the commitment to marry the woman, then
Don't take your pants off.
why are you having a child with them? And then not just one, but two or three,
Yeah.
and you never establish paternity or you don't establish your parenting rights
Wow.
because you're getting along, things are great. So
Hmm.
I don't need to do anything. And then the relationship goes awry.
Mm.
And then the
Hmm.
woman takes off with your kids who
Hmm.
you love and have provided for.
Yeah.
And then you have to scramble to go
Yeah.
find an attorney, go to
Hmm.
court, and you may not see your children for months and months because you're starting off at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just utterly foolish.
Yeah.
I just
It's strange how over the years that have worked, because years ago it wasn't like this in the pursuit, because now we're focused on money, unfortunately, in raising kids. But back then they were focused on presence. When you're I've worked with families in my practice, and it's completely draining. And what I mean by that is because you have so many different personalities and the amount of time that you have to get to understand those, when you're working and trying to advocate, both for the family while also trying to educate them, talk about the balance on that and how, and the stress possibly that is associated with that.
So it took me a while to not take things personally.
Okay.
That's a tremendous asset as an attorney,
Yeah.
practicing for as long as I have. I haven't gotten burned out
Yeah.
because I've learned to set it aside.
Okay.
I don't take on my clients' problems as my own.
Hmm.
And again, the meditation has helped with
Yeah.
that. But I think if people understood
Hmm.
better
Hmm.
what led to where they are now,
Hmm.
and then if they can focus on the present moment
Right.
instead of living in fear, what
Hmm.
if I never get to see? Well, that's not where we are now. So
Hmm.
stop stressing about that. Like,
Shut
I,
that off. Shut that
yeah,
off.
like that I can't deal with
Yeah, yeah,
whatsoever. So,
yeah,
but I'm not unsympathetic
yeah.
because that's a common and natural feeling to have,
It is.
to sit
It
in
is.
this anxiety about what may happen, the worst case scenario. But I don't usually, my what I tell clients a lot of times is, I'll tell you when to worry.
Hmm.
When I'm worried, I'll let you know. But
Hmm.
if I'm not telling you that, then why are you worrying? Like,
Yeah.
that's just unnecessary
Hmm.
drama that you're at. It's all psychological
Right.
drama.
That they're putting
Yes.
themselves through. So we're gonna take a quick break, and on the other side, I want to talk more about call to action stuff. So we really want to get into how can individuals reach you, what type of services you provide. Then also talk a little bit. Although you don't view yourself as a mentor, I had to turn it around a little bit, but let's talk about mentorship and getting more people like you out there. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break. This is Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. All right, let's land this ship. You ready?
Sure.
Let me say you also have been doing great. I know
Thank
that you
you.
were nervous.
I am.
And we only get, I only have two listeners. I have my wife and her grandmother that listens. So you're okay.
You're very modest.
That's all I get. That's all I got. So you've been doing great. So bravo. This is your first time in a while on the mic.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah, but you get up in front of the judges, and I have to believe that you're some type of pit bull up there. I have to believe that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have my own perception of
Uh-huh.
myself. I mean, I know a lot of these magistrates and judges. I've been
Yeah.
practicing a while. Um,
Who's the a-hole?
no, I
Oh,
can't
okay.
say. I think the judges and
Almost
magistrates,
got you. Almost got you.
I think they try to do the best that they can. Some of them have been or get tired.
They old.
Yeah.
Just say old. I can say it.
I think it's nice to have fresh faces on the
Yes.
bench.
When you running.
Oh, that's not for me.
Well, wait. The funny part is, it took you a while. Was that a fastball?
No, not at
No,
all.
you're
No.
not gonna run.
No, I don't. I've thought about it. I think I would get very bored. Like
You think
if
so?
yes, like if for example, if well, I don't if you're a municipal court
Hmm.
judge and you may only deal with housing issues
Yeah,
or
that's true too.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true too.
I just
You like a variety.
I love the variety
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
like getting to pick and choose who I want as my client.
I got you.
After all these years, I'm finally in a position where I can do that.
Right.
So I
That
like
is
the
important.
and I don't want to work an 8 to 5. I like having a flexible schedule. And I don't think
Didn't
judges
you
and
talk? Didn't you
magistrates have
talk
that.
about me about leaving early? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. I'm messing with you. It's all good. All right. So what I want to do
Yes.
before we end, I do want to talk about mentorship. And what you stated is that you're not a mentor, but I know for a fact there's someone that works in your office with you. When you're working with someone who is possibly thinking about going into your work or work like you, what are some things you try to pour into them? What are two things that you pour into them so that they can be healthy in what they're doing in in what you do?
So with my assistant Hiba, for
Hey,
example,
Hibba.
she she wants to go to law school and
Uh-huh.
she's on that path.
Hmm.
And so with her, when she has an assignment, for example, I do spend time explaining to her what we're doing and why
Right.
we're doing, and not just do
That educator
this.
hat comes out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think then she produces better work.
Okay.
Her assignments turn out better.
Hmm.
So there's that. I also like to encourage people if they have
Hmm.
any thought of pursuing a profession as a lawyer. I encourage that. I
Hmm.
think that we need more attorneys of color.
Yeah.
We need more attorneys who can speak different languages.
Right.
That would be great.
Right.
I think so. I think anyone can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
If that young woman I met many, many years ago can do it,
Hmm.
anyone can do it.
This woman just keeps coming back.
Well,
Poor lady.
bless her heart.
Bless her little heart.
She
She
was
wasn't too bright.
she wasn't. What to my mind,
Yeah.
she wasn't.
She wasn't.
But
Oh my God.
she was my inspiration. If I had not gone to that party, I don't know that I would have ever thought.
Did you
to be a
have
lawyer.
fun at the party?
I did.
You
Yes.
did. Okay.
Yes, it was eye opening. It was like
Other than the lawyership.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So you did say you want individuals to go in and you want people to be a part of what you do. And what you said was bilingual or multilingual. How many languages do you speak?
I speak bits of several languages, but none fluently.
Okay. It's of several. All right. So when you're working with someone and you see someone or you're attempting to advocate someone at some group event, what can we as listeners and individuals do to support families that are here? What can we do? What more can we do as just individuals?
Well, I think there are a lot of resources out there for
Hmm.
people, and I wish there was better, I don't know, some sort of dissemination of the resources out there.
Okay.
So if people know of a particular resource, I think it's important to share. Like, for example, if there's a young man out there who's a father who's struggling,
Mhm.
who doesn't know what to do about his situation
Mhm.
involving the mother of his child.
Mhm.
There's, for example, the Fatherhood Initiative,
Right.
which is run through
Cuyahoga County.
Yes,
Yep.
and I think that's a great resource.
Mhm.
But when I tell fathers or my clients who are fathers about this, they will not have heard of
Yeah.
it, and then they get hooked into that, and it turns out to be a great resource. That's just
Yeah.
one example.
Yeah.
Legal aid is another,
Legal
but they
aid.
have limited resources.
Mhm.
They're not
Mhm.
just, I can't afford an attorney, so I'll go to legal aid. That's a
Yeah.
misunderstanding about what they do. And then the court system, like Cuyahoga County Domestic Relations,
Yeah.
does have a help desk. They have staff that help people
Mhm.
who aren't able to afford an attorney.
Mhm.
They'll help you fill out forms and put you in
And
the
move
right
forward.
direction. So those types of resources, if you know what they are, I think
Right.
you should share them as much as possible.
So, what's one thing? Once again, always attempting to feed into the people, the two listeners that listen, either on Facebook or IG or whatever. What is the one thing that you want people to remember if they're facing family issues or legal issues that are related to family?
Well, I think that all problems
Hmm.
can be overcome. A
Hmm.
lot of it is your attitude and perception towards the problem.
Got you.
So a lot of times, and this is one of my pet peeves,
Hmm.
I'll have someone call and say, I'm afraid that the father or mother of my child is going to take custody away. And I'll say, well, were you served with anything? No. So then,
No.
then I can't help you. I can't help you with a fear.
Yeah.
So there
Hmm.
is that, like trying to like step back and actually assess the situation.
Yeah.
And so I do try to explain that to people that
Okay.
unless that it's imminent right
Right.
in front of
Right.
them, if there's no one knocking at your door trying to take your child away,
Hmm.
then you're okay.
Yeah.
At that particular moment, everything's okay. And then you deal with your problem in manageable steps.
Yeah. So operationalize solving a problem
Yes.
rather than being. Do you find that you have to, when you close the door, laugh at some of the people that you work with?
I don't. I
I like
mostly
how
I
you. I
shake.
like how you had something, but you stopped. It was like, let me
Well,
pivot.
mostly I shake my head. It's
Okay.
just
Is
I.
that's your disapproving shake?
It's more like I just can't believe this.
What's the most before we go? What's the most outlandish thing that you've heard that you've dealt with? We got 4 minutes, so
So probably the most outlandish. It was in Parma Municipal Court. I had a
okay,
DUI client,
okay.
and the only reason those aren't my particular favorite. I'm not the best criminal defense attorney. I just think if you did the crime, let me get you a good deal.
Right.
We know you're
You're
guilty. So that's why
yeah.
I don't like doing. But in this
You're
particular case,
guilty. Let me just help you get a better
she was a
outcome.
3-time DUI. I helped her with her divorce. She came back for a DUI, and then she came on the day of sentencing
Uh-huh.
drunk, and that was
Well,
just
wait.
unbelievable.
What was her drink of choice?
I think beer. She
Beer.
just had a lot of beer.
She just had a lot of.
Yeah.
She came to court drunk.
She came
What'd
to
you
court
say?
on the day of sentencing.
What'd you say?
I thought the bailiffs took her out. There was not much to say. That was another shake my head situation.
Oh my god. She got arrested that day. Did she drive too?
Yes,
Get
she
that-
drove. Yes, she did. It's unbelievable. And the most unassuming woman.
Are you
A typical Parma type
Oh my
person.
god. Big hair and all.
Yes.
Big hair and all.
Yes.
She drove.
She drove.
How ridiculous
But
is that?
people have these issues, and I do feel sympathy for them, but it's when they make choices about driving and endangering other people.
You're holding it together. I see you holding it together. How many Okay. I'm sorry.
That was the most astounding.
That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard.
It is. It was.
And she okay. Normal looking woman?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. So so that was one. I got to pivot because I'll laugh about this because I've heard of stuff like that. I'm sorry. I'm picturing this woman just walk in Parma Court, big hair and all, and drunk
Yes.
out of her mind.
Stumbling, speech slur.
What did the judge say?
I don't even think we got to the judge. She was just escorted out. It was
What did the
weird.
bailiff say?
Well, he was escorting her out.
You got to go, ma'am. You got to go. And she drove.
Yes.
How ridiculous is she?
Yeah.
All right. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to get myself back on track.
Okay.
Tell them how they can, contact you for, services and all that other good stuff.
So, well, I am on the internet.
Mhm.
I have a website, lawexplanations.com.
There you go.
And you can also find me by doing a Google search,
Mhm.
Ann Vaughn, attorney at law.
Mhm.
I'm also in my office is in the same building as you
As
are
I am.
located.
So it's at 5000 Rockside Road. What's the suite number? I'm
220?
260. You 220?
220.
Okay,
Yes.
220. Your phone number, we got 888-430-5558.
Correct.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything that you want, any nuggets you want to drop, for as we wrap this up, anything that you want people to really, when it comes to families, that you want them to just grasp hold and be real about?
I think people, no matter what they're facing, I
Hmm.
think that people should take a step back and look around at where they are in the present moment.
Got you.
And if whatever they're facing, the legal challenge, something that might need an attorney,
Hmm.
it's all manageable. There's nothing
Okay.
that scary unless you're in jail,
Yeah.
um, which is a whole different
That's a whole
situation.
different beast.
Everything it can be. There's
Okay.
always hope.
All right, Ann Vaughn, appreciate you coming
Thank
and spend
you.
time with us.
Thank you,
We'll be
Eric.
back next week. Brother to Brothers next week. We got some special guests and our regular host. And this has been Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. Peace.